Hello, everyone, and welcome to FaM Sports Varsity Section 1AA Football Breakdown. And Mars, we're in the section title game. We have a familiar face in New Rochelle, but a new face. Well, Carmel's a prominent team, but they haven't reached this moment since 2008, so it's been a while. But it's Carmel versus New Rochelle. Carmel is 8-1. New Rochelle is 9-0. This one I think is going to be a really good game. I know New Rochelle is the clear favorite, and we'll get into both teams. Lowood has picked New Rochelle to win. Um, I don't blame him. No one's proven that they can defeat the dynasty of New Rochelle. Um, but New Rochelle, they're in 5 straight 1AA section final appearances. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Carmel, I mentioned, first appearance since 2008. Carmel has won 8 straight games, though, since their week 1 loss. New Rochelle has won 5 straight versus Carmel. And we all remember their exciting game last year in the semifinals, the 54-34 game. A lot of back and forth, a lot of long touchdowns. It was a really exciting game. And now this is the rematch. This is now, I think these are two of the clear best teams in 1AA. And this is, I think, going to be showcased to be a really good one.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one.
These are the two best teams. We both agree. Throughout the season, these two showed out more than anybody else. So I think these are the two clear-cut 1 and 2. And we're going to see who comes out on top. But let's start, Mars, with Carmel's offense. Okay, number 2 in the section, in Section 1AA, 38.3 points a game. They've had 8 games of 30-plus points. I mean, that's ridiculous, man. 8 games of 30-plus points. And, you know, how they beat you, I wish there was just one answer but they throw a lot at you. And it starts with their running game. But what they do is they throw a lot of formations at you. I mean, we talked about this last week. It's really a buffet of formations. They really test the discipline of your defense. And, you know, like I meant, they'll come out in the eye. They'll come out with 1 tight end. They'll come out with 2 tight ends. They'll come out with 3 backs. They'll come out in wildcat. They'll come out in trips. They'll come out in doubles. And they'll motion to trips. They'll shift to this. I mean, they do a whole bunch to throw at you and try to isolate a good matchup. But like we talked about before, Mars, it all starts with their running game. James Cox, who has been unbelievable for this team. Before the season, I knew he was a solid back, but he's really showed out. Against Spring Valley last week, Mars, 200 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. You know, he is the bell cow of this offense, and everything runs directly through him, which sets everybody else up. But it all starts with this rushing attack.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we know Carmel. We know that they're going to give you the whole kitchen sink. You know, I mean, they're going to give you everything they have, and that's probably the biggest struggle when trying to scheme against them is that you don't know what they're going to try to get you with. And
Yeah.
who knows? With this week, you might see a whole nother offense come out.
They're going to have a wrinkle. They have to have some sort of wrinkle, Mars, and they're going to need to because they're going to have to catch this well-coached New Rochelle defense off guard. We mentioned James Cox. I mean, he's been tremendous, but there is another player on this team. We both boasted about him before. He is like, I don't like to put a single position on him. He's a wide receiver, but he's really the athlete. And I butcher his name every week. And Alex Buchesny, this kid is the most dangerous player on Carmel. I said it last week. Every week I watch, it comes clear as day. He's the top receiving target for Carmel, but he can run jets as well as anybody. He also is a wildcat quarterback to come into a beast formation, direct snap to him and let him go because he runs like a running back too. He's big and strong. This kid is an X factor. Okay? James Cox is the bell cow, but Alex is the home run hitter. Okay? And this kid can bust open a game. He can change field position on one snap. And that's the type of player that this kid is. Carmel's going to have to find ways to get him the ball in space because he brings a dynamic that not many other players do, which is speed and size. It's a great combination.
Yeah, I mean, wherever he is, you now have to have a key off just for him. And I think that if I was the coach of Carmel, I would definitely try to put him somewhere on the field that where a favorable matchup's going to go,
Yeah.
or at least make everyone look at him and target one of my other athletes that I have on my team, and you know it's gonna find a way to open something up.
Yeah, and I'm sure Nourichel is keeping an eye, obviously, on him. And he's a guy who kind of dictates coverage. That's how talented this guy is, which can help open up the passing game. All right. But speaking passing game, let's go to their passing attack. Okay, and I mentioned they'll come out in trips. They'll throw out of the eye. They'll throw out of trips. They'll throw out of doubles. You know, they will mix it up with you in the passing game. So I can't say that, hey, they like to go short. They'll hit all three, levels of the field, short, medium, and long. And it starts with their quarterback, Andrew Nunez. This kid has had a very good season, kind of flown under the radar because of the other skill guys, but he's a talented kid who's smart quarterback, who's got good touch on his passes, and he's going to need to be smart and accurate against a very talented Nourichel secondary who runs their match 2 coverage, who runs their robber coverage. They have aggressive DBs who are watching the quarterback, and if you do not throw the ball on time or you float a ball, this is where bad things can happen. They they force turnovers at a high clip, and to win this game, Carmel's going to have to do a couple things, Mars, and one is protect the ball in their passing game because they can't shy away from it. They're going to have to pass, but they can't turn the ball over.
Yeah, I think that's – and we talked about this last time when we were doing the game previews for Nourichel last week. Nourichel's defense, there's not really a lot of weaknesses. If you're going to even mention the word weakness in the defense, it is technically the passing game. Trying to beat them up with running the ball is going to be extremely difficult. Now, saying that that's their weakness is, a stretch. But are they probably weaker against the pass? Most likely.
And the reason I could say we both say weakness, Mars, is because they're so aggressive sometimes they're not as fully disciplined in their zones or their coverage because they're always looking to attack the ball, and sometimes they lose track of their receiver. And you have to catch them at the right moment because if you wait too long, they have the speed to compensate. Mm-hmm. All right, but you're right, they have to attack in the passing game. But Carmel's identity is running the football, okay, especially this year. They like to run the football. And they like to attack you off tackle, and they like to attack you right up the gut because that offensive line that they have, Mars, is a strong unit. And they need to ride that unit, so it's hard to run on Nourichel. But Carmel's got to find a way to keep this defense honest, and that's by running right at them. Don't try to run around them. They're too fast. But they got to try to run at them, and they got to test them running at them.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Carmel's bread and butter is running the football, and it almost feels like something that you have to try to get away from what you love to do, right? When we're looking at Nourichel, who's stout against the run, but you definitely have to test them. You definitely see what you can and cannot do against them, and you're right. The offensive line for Carmel is a strong unit, so most of the time I would tell a coach, listen, probably not run against Nourichel. It's not the smartest idea.
They got to, though, man.
But you're going to have to try it.
You can't throw it.
That's your bread and butter, like you said.
You throw it a lot, there's going to be a couple balls that go in the other direction.
Hey, look, they're playing in Mapac Field. Maybe they get some of that magic they had against their rival.
Well, maybe they do, but guys like Wall, Murphy, Piccolino on the offensive front, this is a huge test. Those guys, if they win their matchups, that will change things completely because they will be able to move the ball. And, we talked about it. Passing the ball, they like to run that match 2 coverage. You got to be able to try to flood the zone. You got to try to be able to, you don't always have to hit the deep ball, right? You got to find these holes in the zone and hit them at the right time. All right, for this next clip, we're going to talk about that Carmel, how they like to shift, how they like to maneuver, how they like to put pressure on other people's defenses, and what makes this offense so unique. Carmel is one of the most well-coached teams in Section 1, and offensively, they like to do a lot of different things. They like to run at you, and they also like to have a unique passing game where they'll be in trips, they'll be in heavy sets. They really like to mix things up, and Carmel does a really good job of using shifts, motions, multiple formations to really test the discipline of your defense. And we're going to show one of those plays right now. And Carmel, starting off, they're in an I set, right? So they're in 21 personnel. They got 2 backs, 1 tight end, receivers to the left of the formation, receivers to the right of the formation. And watch them shift, and they're going to change their look up front and see how the defense adjusts to it. Okay? So here's a shift. Right? There's one shift. Okay, now, instead of 21, we're in 11 pro. Okay, so now the tight end went to the right. They got one back. Their wide receivers to their pro receivers to the right. They have two receivers now, twins to the left. Okay, and you could see right away. Okay, the defense is trying to communicate what's going on. Right, you see guys pointing. You guys see guys talking to each other. Okay, so maybe we got the initial shift correct, but now watch what Carmel does. Now they're going to motion to the other side. Here comes the motion. All right. So another shift. Now they're motioning into trips. Now they're in 11 trips to the weak side. Okay. Or away from the tight end, excuse me. And this is, again, I don't see any communication going on now with the DBs. How did they motion now into the trips? So they motion into trips, and now they're looking to pass the ball. And they're going to run a double slant from these outside receivers and a wheel route from the guy who went in motion. Okay? And, these three DBs are responsible for these three wide receivers. Now, I'm not exactly sure, are they in man? Are they in zone? But whatever it is, the shift and the motion is now going to test not only their formation discipline, but their coverage discipline as well. And you're going to see how Carmel just exploited this. Look at the double slant. That brings everybody towards the middle field, and the wheel now is wide open. You could see there was a miscommunication going on and a blown coverage. And this is a huge play. Good throw, good catch, and these are plays that change games. And I expect from Carmel in this championship game against a very good, well-coached New Rochelle defense to test their discipline not only on formations, but on coverage as well. All right, Mars, we talked about the New Rochelle defense. Let's dive into them. They're number 2 in 1AA, 9.1 points allowed a game. How about this number? They haven't allowed 20 points all season long. It feels like every year. Right? They're either 1 or 2 in defense.
Yeah, no, always.
They have one of the best edge defenders. Get after the quarterback, sets the edge, and number 10, Jackson. And an active linebacking core, Mars. I mean, Thomas, Barron, Skirbo, or is it Serbo? You know how bad I am with names. But they have an active linebacking core group that does a lot of things. They know they can run. They can meet you in between the tackles. It's hard. We keep mentioning how running outside of them, it's hard to break contain against Nerd. They don't break contain often because of that speed that they have. But these guys, you have that mixture. And then we talk about the DBs. Okay. They force turnovers at a high clip. They had multiple interceptions last week. The week before, when they played Spring Valley, they had multiple interceptions. And that's because they're absolutely aggressive. They're always playing the ball. They have they have track speed all across the board in their secondary. I mean, these guys they look like they're running 100-meter dashes every time the ball is snapped. That's how quick they are. Guys like Parson, Phillips, Jennings is a guy who I really like at the safety spot. Free safety had multiple interceptions last week. This guy is a ball hawk personified in the high school level. Okay, he attacks the ball. He's a guy that when people flow balls over the middle, he might not even be in the screen. Right? He might not be in the play, and all of a sudden you'll see him shoot into the play. That's how fast he is. So this guy, he's got great range, and he is not afraid to hit you. I mean, I've seen him come up and absolutely blast running backs running the football. So this guy is someone who Carmel must be aware of, this ball hawk free safety in Jennings. I mean, Mars, they got speed at each level. We know this. Normally, they'd have a defensive lineman that is, extremely stout. They don't really have much of that at nose tackle or D tackle. They have solid guys, but not a guy who blows the door off. But they have a great DN in Jackson, the linebacking core, like we mentioned, and the secondary, although sometimes breaks discipline, they make a lot of plays. And when they turn the ball over, Mars, they have all the ability to score on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, New Rochelle's always had that fast defense. No matter what year you're thinking of, you can go years past and say the same exact thing again with that defense. And Coach Lorenzo always has a scheme for every player he has, no matter what fit it is. Now, this defense in general, I think it's going to be really tough to just run on them. And you can say, just like I said, you can say that about every single year.
I think they got to do it.
And what's scary is that their linebacking core is all over the place. I think that's probably the deadliest thing about them is that no matter what play you run, there's going to be a guy coming. He's going to be in your face. He's going to be there putting pressure on you. And even though there isn't really that stout D line as if when they used to always have, they're no slouches. You know, they are not those guys you definitely want to look past. Now, I disagree. You have to try to test them on the run because I think that, I just feel like it's going to be too tough.
Well, I say this: if you turn the ball over 3 times during passing the ball, which the last 2 teams have, Nershell's going to blow you out. And what does Nershell have to do? I mean, look at their formula for success, Mars. Stop Carmel's rush attack. Right, Carmel wants to run the ball. They like to go into heavy sets and run the ball. If you stop that and force them to throw the ball more than they want to, that's when that aggressive defensive backs can start to make plays. And that's, you're really going to test this quarterback. Can he make smart decisions with people bearing down on him? And that's the big test. Nershell, that's been working all year round. Stop the run and force teams to pass the ball more than they want to, and you'll start seeing some turnovers.
Yeah, I think that is a recipe for success with Carmel. Listen, Nershell's skill players are just so talented that they're going to make a play on something at some point in time. Now, it's really Carmel has to now slow down on the turnovers or just stop them in general. Yeah. Right, or if they do turn over, you need to tackle the guy right away.
Yeah. Because
if you give them an inch, they're gonna take 3 touchdowns. You know what I mean? They're gonna take a whole football field if you give them 1 inch.
Absolutely, and it's really mirror images of Carmel. You got to play a clean game, and Nershell continue to force turnovers. I mean, give that offense of yours, who has been absolutely great, more possessions, and that's going to be successful. For this next clip, Mars, let's show one of these plays where Nershell on just how talented this secondary group can be. Nershell has one of the fastest defenses in Section 1, especially in the back end of their defense. And if Nershell gets you in 2nd and long, 3rd and long, passing situations, it could be tough sledding for any offense that goes against Nershell. And their defensive backs know how to make plays on the ball. They force a lot of turnovers. Any quarterback that is not accurate, that does not do the correct timing on the routes, could be in some serious trouble. And these turnovers change games. They score on these turnovers. They change field position. These guys are looking to take the ball away. And we're going to show one of these plays where they're disciplined in their zone and they're just fast. They have game-breaking speed. And John J. Fisher is going to come out in a 2x2 set. It's 2nd and long, 3rd and long. They're looking to pass, okay? Nershell knows this. They're going into max coverage, okay? They're going to say, you know what? Let your quarterback try to make a pinpoint accurate throw, okay? And John Jay is going to run a common 2x2 set, a post wheel. So the outside receiver is going to be running a post. The inside receiver is going to be running a wheel. And I mentioned Nershell's in max coverage, right? So they have 3 guys for these 2, okay? And they're going to run a robber coverage, which means that the inside defender is covering the flats. This outside corner has got the deep outside third, and this safety is robbing 2-1, which means if this second receiver goes out, his eyes are looking to jump the number 1 receiver, okay? And so initially, the post, the safety is going to be jumping this route, which is going to tell this corner to get off this post. But this flat defender has a tough cover. He's got to cover the wheel until the corner gets over there. So this is not an easy cover, but because of that team speed that I mentioned on defense, it makes this a really difficult throw. The quarterback throws it at the right time, right on the break. He's trying to throw it in this small pocket before the corner can come off. But look at the team speed right here. I mean, this is as well covered of a wheel route as you can have. The corner's over the top. The flat defender is really hip to hip with the wide receiver. I mean, this you can't draw it up any better. And he makes a play on the ball. Now, this is a great play, but his teammates are looking around like, oh man, how did you not come up with that? That's how frequent these guys attack the ball, make plays, force turnovers. They're surprised when they don't come up with the turnover. And it's going to be very important for New Rochelle to stay disciplined in their zone and use that defensive speed to force turnovers like they've been doing all year. If they're able to do that, they have a great opportunity to repeat as section champs. All right, Mars, the New Row offense, I mean, they're number one in 1AA. I think they're number one in all of Section 1 in points scored a game at 41.4 points a game. They've had 35-plus points every game. 6 40-plus point games. I mean, that's explosion. That is some serious firepower. And, you know, New Rochelle over the years have had a lot of talented players. A lot of them. Even guys making it to the NFL. Right? And they have guys who they could take a ball and they can go the distance at any moment. This New Rochelle team has like 4 or 5 guys that if you give them some space, they can take it the distance. And that's what makes it extremely difficult to stop their offensive attack. It's because of that overall speed that they have. And New Rochelle loves to attack the edge. Okay, off tackle, sweeps, those type of things. They know they got those home run hitters, Mars, and they want to get them in space. And, you know, I just a couple, I mean, we spoke about Parson at length, right? This kid, he is a track star, you know, not a small guy. He makes plays all over the field. He is obviously leading the way, running the ball. But guys like Phillips, Paul Jennings, you know, these guys, they can all run the ball. And when they get out on jet sweeps or counters or any type of plays that are off tackle, they are a home run waiting to happen. And that's what makes them extremely dangerous in the run game.
Yeah, I mean, running the ball for New Rochelle it's you know, that's their bread and butter, you know, and I use that phrase quite a lot. But I like to say New Rochelle, that's their best aspect, right? Now, can they throw? Of course they can, but running the ball, they love running to the outside. You know, that's like their best thing. That's their best trait, is getting out in space and then letting their skilled guys do the rest, right? Once that they break that contain, it's almost over.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like there's no guarantee you're going to stop them. What's interesting, though, is that playing against New Rochelle with a speedy Carmel defense is really the only team right now I could see that can match some of the speed.
And you mentioned the interesting part about, you know, the speedy Carmel defense. But before we go to the passing offense of New Rochelle, they not only test your ability to contain, they also test your ability to stay disciplined in your gaps. And what I mean by that is these New Rochelle running backs will run in a certain direction, and if you take a poor angle or you escape your gap too quickly, they'll take the cutback lane and they'll hit home runs that way too. So you may initially feel that, hey, I've contained, and then they'll cut back, and that's where another major issues occur against defenses. That's how they also hit you really hard on those cutbacks. You have to rally against them, and you have to stay disciplined in your gaps. And New Rochelle does a great job exploiting that in the run game. Let's go to the passing game. And there's one guy, their tight end, who I absolutely love on this team, Kayshawn Thomas, who's the outside linebacker I mentioned when we were talking about New Rochelle's defense. He had a couple touchdowns last week, one in the passing game where he literally caught a 10-yard pass and took it about 50 yards. And he's a guy who literally just glides down the field. Big, strong kid. You know, he can block. He can obviously catch. And he is another playmaker who's really going to test Carmel's linebackers and safeties because he is a tough matchup for them. And this could be a guy who can make some serious plays in this game. I really think that this is a tough matchup for the Carmel defense. This tight end who really is a good route runner too. I mean, this guy is a complete tight end. Their quarterback also. I mean, young kid Benjamin. You can't say enough good things about him. You know, they're not. New Rochelle's not going to throw it 50 times. That's not what they do. They love running the ball, but they need a quarterback to keep defenses honest, and this kid has done that. And if he gets the ball into Thomas's hands, he gets the ball into Parsons' hand, Phillips, Jennings. He plays a clean game. New Rochelle should have some success. I mean, they have such a potent offense, that bunch of skill guys. As long as he doesn't try to do too much, right? Don't force plays. Take what they give you. This offense should find ways to move the ball. I mean, they have too many guys who are mismatches. Carmel's defense, and we'll get to them really quickly after this, very talented, but if you go skill to skill, if you line up the skill guys on each team, New Rochelle has more of them. It's just a fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think probably the most deadly is Parsons, in my opinion. I feel like he's the guy that has so much speed to him that I don't think anyone in Section 1AA or even Section 1A can match him, right? And that's a lot of athletes. That's a lot of skill guys I'm talking about here. But Parsons is just that freak of an athlete.
Yep.
Where he's a track star for a reason, right? He can move.
Move.
And if you give him that inch, it's over.
Yep.
And I mean, that's just one guy, right? Think about it. You mentioned Thomas. You mentioned these other players
Phillips,
on this team.
Pauls, Jennings.
Yeah, these are other athletes that each one of them has those special traits that they can beat you on their own, right?
Absolutely.
And Benjamin is that reliable guy that will be the guy that's going to dish the ball to the right player, right?
Absolutely. And for this next clip, we're going to show how New Rochelle does a great job attacking the edge of a defense. New Rochelle's offense does a great job of attacking the edges of a defense. And they could usually do this going to the field or into the boundary. And they do a great job of getting a body on a body and setting the edge. And we're going to show that on this play. New Rochelle is going to come out in 11 wings. So they got one back, one tight end. They have a wing to the tight end side. They are twins backside. And you're going to see that this running back is actually shaded towards the tight end wing side, which kind of gives an indicator that they're looking to overload into the boundary. All right? And what New Rochelle's going to do is they're going to motion this twin. Okay, they're going to motion him and give him a jet sweep into the boundary. And what they're going to have is they're going to get these guys block man on man. All right, they're going to try to set the edge, get to the outside. And this wing is going to kick out this corner. And this running back is going to go inside this block and attack the first white jersey he sees. Okay, and you're going to see they do a great job of getting a body on a body. And this is Parsons. Right here is the wing. So they're actually using him as a blocker. Right, because they have about 4 or 5 guys who, once they get into open field, they can break a game open. Okay, so it's not just Parsons, who's a fantastic player. But, the defense sees Parsons as a wing. They're thinking, what, maybe they're going to go back. Right, maybe Parsons is the guy who's going to go. But they're actually going to send this guy in motion, and they're going to run jet sweep into the boundary. And watch how they do a great job of getting a body on a body. Okay, there's a snap. Look at this. Boom. Look at this. Body on a body. See it all the way across the board. Okay, and it's creating this little alleyway that you're going to see this running back fly through. Okay, this is perfectly blocked. I mean, look how great that's textbook right there. Even blocking downfield, right? This is how you open up those long runs, and you get a back like this in open space, and that's where great things happen for this offense. And you see this throughout the season. There are multiple guys who can make plays for New Rochelle. They have a bunch of guys who can break open a game at any moment. And this is going to be a huge part of New Rochelle's offense, attacking off tackle, getting out in space. And if Carmel cannot contain these backs from breaking these long plays, New Rochelle's going to repeat his section title. All right, Mars, let's get to one of our favorite units this year, Carmel's defense, number 1 in Section 1AA, which deserves a lot of praise as it is. It's hard to be the number 1 in anything. 6.8 points allowed a game. They're actually not just the top defense in 1AA. I think they're the top defense in all of Section 1. And, they haven't allowed more than 14 points in a single game this year, Mars. That's unbelievable. They also have 3 shutouts. So this defense is a complete unit. They have speed at each level, and they have toughness. I mean, I can go through a long list of it, but I love, more than anything, their aggressive nature. They're aggressive and disciplined at the same time, which kind of feels like you can't be both, but they are. They're extremely aggressive. They don't sit back, but they they do things the right way. They don't break contain often. They stay disciplined in their gaps, and they rally to the football, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, they have this unique speed to them. They're like a pack of wolves.
Yep.
And that's really what is scary about this defense. The fact is they're playing in the harder division, right? They're playing in the North Division, and they're playing against guys like East Fishkill, Arlington, Ketchum, and they dominated when it came to on the defensive side of the ball. Now I know they lost to East John Jay's Fishkill, but that was a battle, defensive slugfest.
And they played a very good Spring Valley team,
Yep.
beat them.
Exactly.
They played a tough group.
Just on their path to get to the section title, they played against good offenses, and that's the thing is that now they're ranked the best defense in all. I mean, technically all of Section 1 for a reason, which is pretty nasty. Right, and I think I did a lot of aspects of this defense that you can always applaud and that you appreciate if you're a good defensive mind.
Well, let's talk about what they need to, because they have to play at a high level. They're playing the top offense in 1AA, and they're going to need to bring it because we mentioned previously about all the weapons. But let's talk about what they need to do, okay? Because that's the biggest thing. What do they need to do to win this game? And it starts controlling the line of scrimmage. Every coach says it, but it rings true almost all the time. And a guy to look at, Will Bolt, right? The defensive end for Carmel. This kid is a big, athletic kid, and he's going to need to set the edge, right? We talked about how Nourishell wants to attack the edge, attack off tackle, and it's really going to test the defensive ends of these teams and the outside linebackers. And Will is going to have a huge opportunity in this game. I believe he is a really talented football player. And he's going to need to play one of his best games in setting the edge, because if he breaks contain, it's going to be a long day for that Carmel defense. They're fast, but I don't know if they can match the Nourishell speed, especially if they get out on the edge. He's going to be huge for setting the edge.
No, I agree with you completely. It's really going to be the edge that is going to give them the most problems, but I think it's really going to be the linebacker core. I think they're going to have to be agile, and going to have to be very nasty and aggressive. Listen, Nourishell, they're going to run the ball, right? And we all know they are. And I think at the end of the day, I think that the D line for Carmel is going to do a good job. Now, they'll fill their gaps, but the problem is the open gap, Nourishell's backs are going to find it. Now, can the linebackers fill that gap? Or are they just not going to get there in time? And that's really what's going to make the difference. I believe that the Carmel Rams are going to set the edge. I have a bad feeling for Carmel, that if they don't fill the gaps up the middle, they might just beat you right up the gut.
That would be interesting because, Nourishell, although they can, they're not solely looking to get right up between the center and tackle and the guards, but we'll see the cutback lanes. That's where those cutback lanes will be. So they have to stay disciplined. They need their linebackers to be able to run sideline to sideline and attack the line of scrimmage, because you can't let them get ahead of steam. So the linebacking core, that's an absolute great point. Missed tackles is another thing, Mars. I mean, Carmel has been a very good tackling team all season long. They have to continue to be that way, because you can't let these guys break tackles. They got to get after them. A guy to keep in mind, I love this strong safety they have, Bumgarner. Blitzing, he's like an extra linebacker, and he's a really good blitzer. And I really think this kid's going to make some plays in this game. Tough kid. That's a kid to look out for. But we talked about, let's just say they stop Nourishell's rush attack, which will be what they need to do right from the get-go. And then Nourishell's going to try to pass the ball. And how do they match up with that tight end that I mentioned, Thomas? Right? Linebackers, they got some tough linebackers. They have some tough safeties that I mentioned. But can they run with that kid? Thomas is a tough matchup, and you really got to stay disciplined, and you can't be overly aggressive, because you fly up for the run, they could dump it right behind you, and that could be ugly, because him in open space is a matchup nightmare. So it's really interesting to see. I think Carmel's defense is going to play really hard.
Yeah.
I think they're coached very well. I think they play with a toughness and an aggression that separates itself from the pack. I mean, Nourishell has just athletes everywhere. Carmel has a toughness to them that I think is unmatched by anybody else.
No, I agree. I agree completely. I think Bumgarner is one of those guys that's just all over the place. I think wherever the ball carrier is, he's
an
there.
extra linebacker.
He's right
at
there
the safety spot.
Yeah, and I think he needs to have the game of his high school career in this game. And if he doesn't, then that's really a big tell of what's going to happen.
Absolutely. All right, Mars, for this next clip, let's go into that Carmel defense and what makes them unique. Carmel boasts one of the top defenses in Section 1AA. They actually have the top defense in points allowed per game, not just in 1AA, but the entire Section 1 league. And there's a lot of reasons for their success. They're very well coached. They have a lot of not just defensive speed, but they're strong up front. So they're not just either fast or big. They're kind of a mix of both. And they're very aggressive. So you see them, they're not going to sit back and wait. They're coming after you. Okay? And we're going to show a couple plays that, one, you show their aggressiveness, and two, they're sound in their fundamentals. All right? So in this play against Arlington's coming out in trips with a tight end backside. Okay? Normally in trips, you're going to have some sort of zone coverage to the trips, which Carmel does. But this linebacker is an interesting part of this play because usually in trips you have a linebacker helping out to the pass threat. All right, and on backside you're going to be in some sort of man. But what Carmel's going to do is they're going to be sending a couple of their guys. Okay, so this safety backside, he's not going to sit back and wait. He's coming right off the edge. And this linebacker, who may be looking, is he helping out the trips guy? No, he's actually be coming off the edge. So this end is not going to contain. He's going to come inside. All right? And watch how, again, this is trips. They're going to be extremely aggressive. They're coming after the quarterback. They want this quarterback to throw the ball quickly. And if he doesn't, they're going to make a big play. Watch how they stay in their lanes and attack the quarterback. Boom. Look at that. And the ball comes loose, and now it's a scoop and score. I mean, that's awesome. All right, let's go to another play. Okay, they're playing New Rochelle High School. I mean, New Rochelle's got a lot of speed. They can beat you multiple ways, passing the ball, running the ball, getting to the edge. And, I spoke earlier in a previous preview about New Rochelle attacking in the boundary. So this is another play. This is against John J. East Fishkill. Okay, and although they don't run similar formations to New Rochelle, the concept is somewhat similar, as in they're going to attack you into the boundary, off tackle. All right, so John Jay's coming out in a deuce look, which means they got two backs in the backfield, no tight ends, no wings, okay? And they have twins into the boundary. But these two backs are shaded into the boundary, which it looks like they're trying to overload the boundary. Okay, and that's what they're actually going to do. They're going to run a QB lead. So this QB is going to take the snap, and he's going to follow these two backs. They're going to be running zone blocking up front. And this quarterback's going to choose which lane he wants to take. Okay, but they're attacking the boundary. Now, Carmel, this guy's responsible. This backer right here is responsible for containing. Okay, but this end, he's going to help on that contain by attacking the C gap. All right, but watch these two guys, how they set the edge. Okay, this quarterback wants to get to the sideline, but he can't because these guys do a great job. Okay? And this linebacker attacking downhill is going to finish the play, and you're going to see that right here. Watch how they set the edge, and here's the linebacker. Boom. And look at everyone rally around. I mean, look at this. This is how you want to see after a play. Carmel's defense, there's so many things I like about them, but the aggressiveness they play with and the discipline, the gap responsibility they play with are the two things that I think separate this defense more than any other. And they're going to need to play at this high level to give them a shot. They got the tools. Now, can they execute? That will be the big question. All right, Mars, let's get to our prediction. Now, this is another one that was really tough. I tell you, when we did Class A in the previous video, that was a really tough one. This one is another really tough one for me. And there's things I love about both teams. I think they're the two clear teams out of 1AA. I'm going to go with New Rochelle in a close game. And I think this one is a lot closer than what some think is going to be, because they think New Rochelle, because of all the athletes they have, because of the pedigree, because of the coaching, that this might be a walk to the section title, and I don't think it will. I think this Carmel defense is that good that it'll keep them close in this game. But my question is, can Carmel's offense score enough against this New Rochelle defense? And if I think they can't run the ball, I think that's going to bode some serious problems. Carmel will need to run the ball. If they just try to step back and throw the ball like John Jay's Fishkill did, like Spring Valley did, They may hit a couple big plays, but they'll have a few big turnovers, and that will change this game. And I think that's what happens. I think Carmel will have some success running, not enough to really impose a big enough threat to upset the dynasty that is New Rochelle. This game is close all the way to the end. New Rochelle breaks off a couple more big plays to win this one.
Now, the last time Carmel was on Mapex Field, they dropped 50 points, right? There's a magic in the air, and I have a feeling this magic is going to carry to the section title game, and I'm going to call Carmel is going to find a way to upset the Giant in New Rochelle. I think that the Carmel defense has this special ability where they will smother you in every chance that they get. And they have this toughness to them. And New Rochelle, I'm not saying that they haven't played any tough opponents. Not saying that. The difference is, though, New Rochelle's in a different league, right? Where they're playing a lot of not as challenging teams as Carmel is. Carmel was playing the harder division and was smothering every team that they played against. Now you're really going to take on the beast in New Rochelle. But I think that New Rochelle is going to overlook their opponent like they've done in the past.
You've been saying this for weeks, and I haven't seen it yet.
And I think right now when they play against the top defense in all of Section 1, it's going to show. And I think that Carmel has a speed that can match New Rochelle to a certain extent. Now I think that, like I said, if we can stop the run, if I'm Carmel, I say, listen, we stop the run, we have a chance. And I think that New Rochelle might make some mistakes when they start throwing the ball, and that's where Carmel capitalizes. They are no slouch on offense either. Now, it's as long as the running attack for Carmel is consistent, I can see this upset.
You think it's going to happen?
I have a feeling it's going to happen.
Wow, well, so you're calling Dynasty to be stopped this year. It's an interesting one. Well, everyone, that was our video. I hope you guys enjoy the game this weekend. We look forward to hearing you, over the next week, especially with football season ending. It's been tough.
Yeah.
But we're going to see what happens in this game, and we're both very excited to watch this game. Let us know who you think is going to win. I hope you guys all have a great night.